Okay, I'm live. We've got a kind of a neat sunset going tonight, but we do have dark skies. Let me just show you what's going on the horizon over there. Look at that. And there was a big clap of thunder earlier. So let me lower this. But we do have dark skies. Let me just show you what's going on. There we go. I have my sound on my other devices. That's not going to work out well. So I don't know what kind of sunset we're going to get tonight. However, we get some thunder going on behind us and some rain. What a perfect backdrop for the Raven. And we're going to go through this poem. It is, I'm sure some of you have come across the Raven at some point in your life, or once you start reading it, you'll say, this sounds familiar. I've heard this before. I think when we're done, you'll have a new appreciation for the sheer mastery of this poem. And while we're going through it, see if you can try to figure out what genre of music today this would be closest to. We'll give it a while for some people to show up. I'll be narrating to the sunset. So all you have to do is Google The Raven by Poe. And there's a very good version at the Poetry Foundation. Get the poem up on your screen so that you can follow along. You won't be disappointed. What do we got here? California, Sydney, Colorado. Okay, getting there. ¿Cómo estás? The formal version. Wouldn't it be ¿Cómo está usted? But no, you jumped right into ¿Cómo estás? Okay, mi amigo. So, before I begin on the Raven, a little bit of background on the poem, written in 1845. 2 years prior, there was a poem written called Lenore. The narrator of the Raven, lost a girl named Lenore. Poe was interviewed about this poem, and if it was a continuation of Lenore, I think he would have said something. But about 2 years prior to this, there was a poem called Lenore, where a young maiden dies, and the one man at her funeral, I can't quite remember all the names, was angry with all the other people because he felt the other people were only interested in her for her station in life, whereas he was the only one who loved her. So it seems odd that you have this narrator who can't let this death go and refers to the person who died as a maiden, meaning a younger woman, a younger unmarried woman. So I kind of, it feels like it's so close together, but he did use the name Lenore in a number of poems, and I guess there's nothing to be taken from this. He did lose his own wife, and he was, depressed, or in a state of depression because of that. Had difficulty moving on. Was some incidents of drug taking in his life, and he died, some people think, by an overdose in the streets of Baltimore. So, with a little bit, every artist brings their own suffering to their own work. It makes it a little bit more human, a little bit more interesting. Before we get into this, I just want you to appreciate the structure of this poem. Let's start with the last word of every stanza, the last word. And there's 18 stanzas, so just scan down and look at the last word. More, evermore. More, 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 nevermore, 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 and always just nevermore. Just asking, if there's more, and then as the narrator falls further into depression, it changes to nevermore all the way through. And this poem is about a man's descent into deep depression, into almost madness. Look at the density of the rhyme as well. Look at your first line. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary. Now look at the first line of every stanza. Second, remember, December. The third stanza, uncertain, curtain. Fourth stanza, stronger, longer. Next stanza, peering, fearing. Next one, turning, burning. Next one, shudder, flutter. And if you look at the first stanza, the second, fourth, fifth, and sixth line, lower, door, door, more. Go to the next one, floor, Lenore, Lenore, evermore. Next one, before, door, door, more. Implore, door, door, more. Before, Lenore, Lenore, more. Before, explore, explore, more. Look at that rhyme scheme. Look at the third line of every stanza and the fourth line. While I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping. Next line, as of someone gently rapping. You have three rhymes in there. Go to the next stanza, third line. Eagerly I wished the moral, vainly I had sought to borrow from my book surcease of sorrow. So you have internal rhyme. The rhyme density in this poem is incredible. What genre of music do you see a lot of rhyme density? Didn't The Simpsons do a fun parody of The Raven? Yep, they did. Now, one interesting thing, when this poem came out in 1845, it was a hit. It was a national sensation. And there were a lot of parody poems and copycats of this poem, a lot. It was just this novel way of telling a story with this neat little rhyme scheme in there that was really catchy. Like when we look at the first stanza, third line, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as if someone gently rapping at my chamber door, that it just got this little catchy beat to it. So it really caught on. And Poe was sort of a rock star of his day on this one. This one was huge in that sense because it was so catchy. And this follows the sort of the type of poem at the time. It's more of a storytelling poem. There's a story in here. I want you to look at, this is really interesting here. The first stanza, the second, the 1, 2, 3, the fourth and the fifth line, how they end with door. Door, door. Go to the next one, Lenore, Lenore. Next one, door, 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 door. Next one, Lenore, Lenore. And finally, explore. We're going to leave that. So the door is symbolic of the division between the living and the dead. Lenore's on the other side of the door. First stanza, we visit the door. Second stanza, it's Lenore. We're back to the door in the third stanza. Fourth stanza, it's the door. Back to Lenore. Back and forth, back and forth. By the time we get to the sixth stanza, we decide to explore. Now look what happens to the words after. Back to the door, then shore. Back to the door, then before. Bore, your, or. Back to Lenore. Maybe we found Lenore. Implore, Lenore, door, floor. Not until we get to the sixth stanza, where the word becomes explore, do we decide that we're on the other side of that door. And the poem, the narrator, truly is on the other side of that door. The narrator is imagining things, or seeing things, or hearing things, or imagining that they're seeing things, but to them it's all too real. They are being haunted by a demon. And not until we get to that stanza, explore, has the narrator truly become lost. The structure is just incredible. Before we start, where are my notes here? Because I had a couple of questions. Hang on a sec. Okay. Before we start, I want you to ask yourself this question. It's one of those what would you rather type questions. Would you rather be haunted by a real demon but be perfectly sane? Or would you rather that there really be no demon at all but you are quite insane? Which one would you rather be? And this poem sort of kind of puts that question out. The other thing before we start here is we can read this poem as it is. Just reading the words and saying, oh, okay, hey, look, there's this talking bird. Is this a supernatural poem? And if it is a supernatural poem, it's really not that scary for being a supernatural poem. I think we can come up with more terrifying things. Or maybe it's not a supernatural poem, it's a psychological poem. And as a psychological poem, one of two things. There really is no raven, there's no talking bird, it's all in the person's head. Or there happens to be a raven, but it's not talking. The interesting thing about the raven is that you can train a raven to say some words. So in this poem, the narrator muses for a while, because of the word nevermore, about what previous owner this bird had that it would teach it the only word nevermore, because it is possible to learn that word. But I think it would be extremely coincidental that at this moment in time, for this person, that a raven would fly into his room and speak that one word. I think it would be extremely coincidental. So this is a psychological poem, and either there is a raven but it's not talking, or there just is no raven at all. Okay, let's we're gonna go stanza by stanza. It is a story. That's all it is. It is a story. The narrator is narrating, and some things are in quotes, so that means the narrator's speaking at that point. If we look at the second stanza, it's distinctly I remember. So the narrator, this is sometime after the event. It's not happening. We're not with the narrator as it's happening. It's sometime after the event, and the narrator is telling us about this. But by the time we get to the end of the poem, we see that the narrator has fallen into this very deep depression. This is sort of a descent into madness, and this is sometime after. So who could the narrator be talking to? I don't know that the narrator's talking to you and me. I think the narrator is probably talking to a doctor, and the doctor is trying to help the narrator by, getting the narrator to understand that this is all in your head. This is an illusion. When we think about it that way, the first line of the second stanza changes. We change the way we say it. It's not reminiscent. I've heard it so many times in narration where whoever's reading the poem says, distinctly I remember. It's not like that. It's a pushback. And when I get to it, I'll show you what I mean. Now, I imagine that the narrator is talking to the doctor. And this is not the first time, this poem is not the first time that our narrator has had trouble with reality. This is the last time he's had trouble with reality. This is the breaking point. This is where he snaps. So let's begin with all of that in our background, and let's see what happens to our narrator. And at the very end, listen to these cicadas. Isn't that just, they complain and complain, and the rain has started now. I don't know if you can hear the rain dropping, but let us go. Okay. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore. That means he's just sitting around reading books. Volume of forgotten lore. While I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. Now, the next part is in quotes, so it's important how we say this. I've heard it said, "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door, only this and nothing more. I think that's wrong. I think I think what he's trying to do, because this is not his first time doubting reality. I think what he's saying here is he's trying to calm himself down and saying, "'Tis some visitor tapping at my chamber door. Only this, nothing more." Do you see what I mean? He's trying to just say, that's all it is. It's just somebody at my door. I'm not going crazy. Everything's fine. I'm just going to go open the door and there'll be somebody there. Now look at this. The rain is coming down now. I guess you can hear it. Kind of a nice backdrop for this. Now, between the first and second stanza, after he's got himself agitated in front of the doctor saying, "Only this, nothing more," the doctor's trying to calm down, saying, "It's all in your head." And this is where he pushes back. Distinctly, I remember. It was in the bleak December. You're not going to tell this guy he doesn't know what he's talking about. Distinctly, I remember. It was in the bleak December. And each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow. Vainly I had sought to borrow from my book surcease of sorrow. Sorrow for the lost Lenore. For the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore. Nameless here forevermore. When he's saying here, he's motioning down to the corporeal earth, saying here where we live. Nameless here forevermore. Surcease of sorrow. There's some really weird words in here, right? So surcease is like to come to an end or to find relief from. So from my book, surcease of sorrow, but you got to fit it into the poetry, right? So you can't just say from my book's relief of sorrow. Got to be a little bit more poetic than that. So that's all that means is surcease of sorrow. Nameless here forevermore. So now we have the setting. This guy has lost Lenore, a rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore. So we know she's dead and he imagines she's in heaven. Next line. This is beautiful language. What good poets try to do is they try to create sound in your head about what's going on if they can. So this is about rustling curtains. Listen to it. And the silken sad uncertain rustling of each purple curtain. Look at all those S's. The silken sad uncertain rustling of each purple curtain, so that you, hearing it, can hear the curtains rustling. Thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before. So that now, to still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating, "'Tis some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door, some late visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. This is it, nothing more." He's still trying to calm himself down. You can see that this is not his first time in a state like this. This is his last time. Presently, my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. "Sir," said I, "or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore. But the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping at my chamber door, that I scarce was sure I heard you. Here I opened wide the door. Darkness there, nothing more. Darkness there, nothing more." Imagine, think about somebody knocking on the door, tapping on the door. "But the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping at my chamber door." You can hear how he's bringing sound into it. Absolutely fantastic. Deep into that darkness peering, long I stood there wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream. But the silence was unbroken, and the stillness gave no token, and the only word there spoken was the whispered word, "Lenore?" Notice the question mark at the end. He's the one speaking it. Opens the door, it's full darkness, and he's asking, "Lenore?" This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word Lenore. Merely this and nothing more. So it's just, he's opening the door, he's whispering out Lenore, and he hears that echo coming back. back into the chamber turning, all my soul within me burning. Soon again I heard a tapping somewhat louder than before. Surely, said I, surely that is something at my window lattice. Let me see then what thread is, and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment, and this mystery explore. 'Tis the wind, nothing more. He's still trying to convince himself. Everything is fine. He's hearing things. Everything is fine. Look at the type of rhyme that we're putting in there. In this one, the line ends with lattice. Look how creative he gets. Surely, said I, surely that is something at my window lattice. Let me see then what thread is, and this mystery explore. Now he's going to explore. There's where we start to leave this idea of the door and Lenore. Lenore being on the other side of the door. We're going to explore. Open here I flung the shutter, when, with many a flirt and flutter, in there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obeisance made he, not a minute stopped or stayed he, but with mane of lord or lady perched above my chamber door, perched upon a bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, perched and sat, and nothing more. Let's break that down. He's referring to the raven in a kind of a noble way, a raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obeisance made he. Obeisance is a sort of an acknowledgement. You know, when you walk into a room and you see somebody and somebody sees you in your eyes, you know, you can see, you look at each other, you make some sort of acknowledgement that you see the person, right? But when you walk into a room like you own it, like you have every right to be there and everyone's just in your way and you don't acknowledge anyone. That's what he's saying. Not the least obeisance made he, not a minute stopped or stayed he, but with mane of lord or lady. Mane is a look that you have. It's a look or a manner that you carry yourself with. Perched above my chamber door, perched above the door, perched upon a bust of Pallas just above my chamber door. And Pallas is a reference to the god Athena, which is associated with wisdom, symbolic of things like sanity, education or scholarship. And it sits above this. The raven sits above it. The raven, which is symbolic of sorrow, sitting above sanity, sitting above rationality, above his door, above the door between the living and the dead. I think that's a powerful illusion right there. This dark bird, symbolic of sorrow, sitting above the head of Pallas or Athena, representing rationality, representing sanity. Then this ebony bird beguiling my sad fancy into smiling by the grave and stern decorum of the countenance it wore. Though thy crest be shorn and shaven, thou, I said, art sure no craven, ghastly grim and ancient raven wandering from the nightly shore. Tell me what thy lordly name is on the night's Plutonian shore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. So what he's doing here is he's now having a conversation with this bird. He's looking up at it and he's kind of amused with it at first, saying, check you out. And saying, I said, art sure no craven, that the bird is no craven, meaning that it's not cowardly. This is interesting, right? The night's Plutonian shore. This is a reference to Pluto, who was the Roman god of the underworld. So coming from night's Plutonian shore, here from the underworld. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Much I marveled, this ungainly fowl, to hear discourse so plainly, though its answer little meaning, little relevance bore, for we cannot help agreeing that no living human being ever yet was blessed with seeing bird above his chamber door, bird or beast upon the sculptured bust above his chamber door, with such name as nevermore. But the raven, sitting lonely on the placid bust, spoke only. That's a nice illusion there. The placid bust, meaning it's very white. So you have this black on white, this deep, sorrowful emotion, this sorrow sitting above sanity. But the raven, sitting lonely on the placid bust, spoke only that one word, as if his soul in that one word he did outpour. Nothing farther then he uttered, not a feather then he fluttered, till I scarcely more than muttered, other friends have flown before. On the morrow he will leave me, as my hopes have flown before. Then the bird said, nevermore. So his sorrow here, you can see his depression. Here's this bird, and he's saying, at the very end, he's saying, everyone else has left me. Tomorrow you'll leave me too. Everyone leaves me. No one wants me. And then the bird says, nevermore. Oh, I will not leave you. Startled at the stillness broken by reply so aptly spoken, doubtless, said I, what it utters is its only stock and store. Caught from some unhappy master, whom unmerciful disaster followed fast and followed faster, till his songs one burden bore, till the dirges of his hope that melancholy burden bore of nevermore. So here he's musing that, well, that's all this bird can say. Maybe that's the only word he can say. Doubtless, said I, what it utters is its only stock and store. Caught from some unhappy master, whom unmerciful disaster followed fast and followed faster, till his songs one burden bore. That maybe his previous master had taught him that only that one word, nevermore. That maybe there was something sad in the other owner's life or the master's life in which that was the only word that the raven took away from. But the raven still beguiling all my fancy into smiling. Beguiling is an interesting word here. Beguiling is kind of like to charm you, but in a sort of deceitful way. Her looks were beguiling, they charmed you, but you can't trust it. But the raven still beguiling all my fancy into smiling. Straight I wheeled the cushioned seat in front of bird and bust and door. Then upon the velvet sinking, I betook myself to linking fancy unto fancy, thinking what this ominous bird of yore, what this grim, ungainly, ghastly, gaunt, and ominous bird of yore meant in croaking, nevermore. Look how it's changed. It was a stately bird from the days of yore. Now it's a grim, ungainly, ghastly, gaunt, and ominous bird of yore. It's changing. This I sat engaged in guessing, but no syllable expressing to the fowl whose fiery eyes now burned into my bosom's core. This and more I sat divining, with my head at ease reclining on the cushion's velvet lining that the lamplight gloated o'er, but whose velvet violet lining with the lamplight gloating o'er she shall press. Oh, nevermore. He can't get past it. There's this bird, he's sitting down and he says, let me think this through here. Sits down on the chair and puts his head on the cushion. Then he realizes that her head will never be on this cushion again, but whose velvet violet lining with the lamplight gloating o'er she shall press. Nevermore. Then, methought, the air grew denser, perfumed from an unseen censer swung by seraphim whose footfalls tinkled on the tufted floor. That requires some unpacking. So, methought the air grew denser, perfumed from an unseen censer. Now, I want you to think about an Orthodox church where the priest is walking down the church and he's got that incense container at the end of a long chain and he's swinging it back and forth, right? Perfumed from an unseen censer, that's that container. Swung by seraphim, and you can see the priest swinging it back and forth, Omni Padros, what is it, or whatever it is they sing, whose footfalls tinkled on the tufted floor. A seraphim is like some kind of heavenly or celestial creature. Sometimes you'll see this poem, and that word is changed to angels. Don't really like that one. I don't know so much that seraphim actually implies angels. Now, this gets interesting here. Wretch, I cried, thy God has lent thee by the angels, he has sent thee respite and nepenthe from thy memories of Lenore. Who's he talking to? Now look at the rhyme scheme in here. Thy God has lent thee, by these angels he has sent thee, respite and nepenthe. It's an odd word, nepenthe. Nepenthe is, you got to go back. I think it's a reference from the Iliad. It's a potion of forgetfulness that especially for sorrow, that'll help you forget sorrow. Who's he talking to when he says wretch? He's talking to himself. He's calling himself a wretch. Wretch, I cried, thy God has lent thee. By these angels he has sent thee respite. Respite and nepenthe from thy memories of Lenore. Quaff, oh quaff this kind nepenthe and forget this lost Lenore. So he's trying to get himself out of this. He's saying, look, man, I have this is some respite from this. Quaff, oh quaff this kind nepenthe and forget this lost Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still of bird or devil, whether tempter sent or whether tempest tossed thee here ashore. Let's unpack that. Prophet or thing of evil. Prophet still, whether thing of evil. Prophet still if bird or devil, whether tempter sent, whether you were sent by some tempter, or whether a tempest tossed thee here, and you just happen to end up here in the storm. Whether tempter sent or whether tempest tossed thee here ashore, desolate yet all undaunted on this desert land enchanted, on this home by horror haunted, tell me truly, I implore, is there balm in Gilead? Tell me, I implore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Well, what is that? Is there balm in Gilead? It's a biblical reference. The balm of Gilead was like a cure-all, and again, especially for depression and sorrow. If you were sad about something, you would go to Gilead and seek the balm of Gilead, and that would be a sort of a cure-all. Is there balm in Gilead? It's a pompous way of saying something, right? It's like somebody trying to give you advice. Instead of saying something like, pick your fights in life, they say something like, and remember, don't go tilting at windmills. It's like, well, shut up, don't go tilting at windmills. That's a Don Quixote reference, meaning pick your fights, right? Pick your fights. Well, just say pick your fights. But this is, we think, at least based on the setting, he's reading books late at night, that perhaps this is a more academic person. So they would say something like that. Is there balm in Gilead? Tell me, I implore. Because he wants to forget. And the raven says, nope, you're never going to forget. Nevermore. Again, repeat. Prophet, said I, thing of evil. Prophet still of bird or devil. By that heaven that bends above us. By that God we both adore. Tell his soul with sorrow laden if, within the distant Aden, it shall clasp a sainted maiden whom the angels name Lenore. Clasp a rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore. What does the raven say? Nope, nevermore. What's he saying here? He's saying, tell me, tell this soul with sorrow laden, tell me, my soul, weighed down by sorrow, tell this soul with sorrow laden, if within the distant Aden, well, Aden is a poetic term for Eden, the Garden of Eden, the afterlife. If within the distant Aden, the soul, it shall clasp a sainted maiden whom the angels name Lenore, will I be reunited with Lenore? Tell me, clasp a rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore. And the raven says, nevermore. No. Taking away all hope from this person, all hope. I'm never going to leave you. You're never going to see her. You're never going to have peace. Be that word our sign of parting, bird or friend or fiend. Bird or fiend. Be that word our sign of parting. In other words, get the hell out, I shrieked, upstarting. Get thee back into the tempest and the night's Plutonian shore. Leave no black plume as a token of that lie thou soul hast spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken. Quit the bust above my door. Take thy beak from out my heart, and take thy form from off my door. Quoth the raven, nevermore. I'm never gonna leave you. And the raven, never flitting, still is sitting, still is sitting on the pallid bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, and his eyes have all the seeming of a demon's that is dreaming, and the lamplight o'er him streaming throws his shadow on the floor, and my soul from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted nevermore. That is his final descent into just depression and madness. From out that shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted nevermore. Wild, isn't it? The big theme to this poem is that in life we tend to create our own demons. We all have that seed within us. We all have the loss of someone that we can't get over. We all have perhaps some overbearing parent that we can't get out of our head, even though we've left and it's years behind us. We can still hear them in our heads. We create our own demons. Whether or not they take hold depends on if we can leave them behind, if we can bury them. This person couldn't, so has created their own demon, and that demon overtook them. I think that is a powerful poem, and I think it's terrifying in that sense, because we do have within us the seeds of these demons. You can see it in some people later in life. You can see somebody who has maybe been with a psychologically abusive partner for years and years, and that partner is gone, but they still carry on arguments with them. They might be sitting somewhere in some home, and you're walking by, and they seem to be snapping at someone and arguing with someone. That demon in their life that's there, that will always be there, that will leave nevermore, nevermore. How many of you have a demon inside you, or the potential of a demon inside you? I'll tell you one story from me. I grew up with a grandmother. Her husband died after 13 years of marriage, left her a 6-year-old daughter. She never got over that. And she lost herself in a bottle. And her daughter left, I think, at 18, but leaving me behind, because at 18 you're in no position to be a mother. And my grandmother did the thing that you're supposed to do, which is, you do the responsible thing, but certainly wasn't what you'd call a traditional parent. But she was bitter. She was bitter at life, and she was bitter at her daughter. And I can remember, many times as you're growing up, you make little mistakes. You might drop a glass of water on the floor or something, and I can hear her in her French Canadian accent. "Are you stupid, you? You're just like your mother." And then when you're young, you think nothing of it, right? But I tell you, there are times now where I'll make a mistake on something, or I'll drop something, or something will spill and it's all over the floor, and I can still hear that voice in the back of my head. "Are you stupid, you? You're just like your mother." And it's that bitterness. Now, it doesn't haunt me. It doesn't drag me down, but I hear it. I don't let it do anything, but just that little seed that's in me, that if later in life I suffer from some sort of brain loss or memory loss, or some of those diseases that attack your mind, I can easily see myself having arguments with this demon as I finish my descent into complete loss of rationality. That is absolutely terrifying. That's what makes this poem so terrifying, is that it's a story about just almost anybody you could know. And we probably all know at least one person who's haunted by their own demons. Anyways, there's the Raven. I thought it was something that we should expose ourselves to. So let's see what kind of comments we have and what kind of questions we got. I don't know if you enjoyed that or not, but I thought I'd throw it out there. What do we got? Colorado, Toronto, Singapore, Lebanon. Nice. Germany, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Ireland, St. Catharines, the Home Depot guy. Oh, let me tell you this story. I'm in Home Depot, and I'm looking for some stuff for my bathroom. because I was redoing the bathrooms and I needed, towel racks and that kind of stuff. So I'm looking for something in Home Depot, and this guy comes around the corner. I'm wearing my M hat, and he says, "Are you Mark Meldrum?" And I'm thinking, okay, I haven't been with anybody lately. This can't be somebody's husband. Think fast. Oh, yeah, yeah. He said, and that's when he said, "Oh, I recognize you from the videos." I was like, "Oh, that's the Home Depot guy." Let's see. Waiting for the CFA housewarming party in CR to be announced. It's already begun. I've already had people come over. I don't know what kind of sunset we're going to get tonight because there is cloud cover, but where is it now? 5:43. It's kind of a boring sunset so far. Let's see. What did I just walk into? The Raven. CFA level 4. Level 4. Do you drive stick shift over there? No, I do not. No, I would not. No, I would not. Not here. Nope. There we go. Allowing guest over with maple syrup. Yep. Thornhill. Tempter refers to the devil. It does. Remember the, reference to the Garden of Eden. The snake was tempting Eve, was the tempter from the devil. Abu Dhabi, Philadelphia, Morocco. And there we are. We don't have that many people on tonight. 77. I guess poetry's not a big thing. Well, that's a shame. Well, give me your thoughts on the poem. What did you think? I mean, is it... do you have a new appreciation for it? Was it interesting? Was it fun? Do you want me to do more of this? Less of it? None of it? You said you found snakes in your house. I did. I've had three snakes so far. They're just little black snakes. They're about a foot long, but they're aggressive. They stand up about halfway and they lunge at you with their mouths open. They lunge at you. Little snakes, usually they just run away, but they lunge at you. There are bigger snakes on the property. I've seen bigger snakes, and I got lizards. My God, the size of the lizards. They're huge. They're at least 4 or 5 feet long. They're big lizards. I got lizards. I haven't encountered a lizard yet face to face. Like I haven't, been walking up the stairs and a lizard's coming down. Yesterday I was walking up the stairs and a snake was coming down, and that was, snake wasn't stopping for me. So I kind of had to do a little ballet dance to the side and say, "There you go, buddy. You go right ahead." But I do have snakes. I do have spiders. When will the cicadas leave the videos? I adore. Nevermore. Very good. I figure we got about another couple weeks with the cicadas. Aren't they dangerous? I don't know. It's a good question. Usually in nature, the brighter something is colored, the more dangerous it is. So when you see a snake that's all black, it's a little small one like that, it's probably not dangerous. The reason why is because they blend in. That's how they survive. They blended in. If you see very, very brightly colored ones, they don't blend in, yet they survived. Well, let me tell you why. It's because they're the hunters, right? They had nothing to fear. So when you see a very brightly colored snake, those are the ones you should say, "Oh, okay, let's just back away, nice and easy." What do you think would be a good exit for credit analysts at S&P covering insurance and banks? A good exit? I don't know what you mean by an exit. You mean a way out of being a credit analyst? Well, it would seem to me that private debt would be a kind of a neat place to go if you were a credit analyst. Never been into poetry. I think I might develop a passion. How did you overcome your demon? I'm resilient. If there's one thing that one kind of trait that I think I have above all is I'm resilient. I don't really let it get me. It didn't really bother me at the time. It was just, yeah, whatever. It just really never bothered me at the time because it came from somebody whose opinion I really didn't value and I really didn't care about. So who cares, right? I mean, I could see if it was somebody that, was a role model or somebody that I was trying to please or trying to get somebody's approval, then that would bother me. But this wasn't somebody that, that I cared about their approval at all. So it really didn't bother me. But I still hear it sometimes. Do you enjoy psychological horror novels or films? I don't know about psychological horror. I think if I'm going to watch a horror movie, I'd rather it be psychologically terrifying as opposed to just, supernaturally terrifying. Like something like Pet Sematary, Stephen King's Pet Sematary. Yeah, I went to see that alone, and halfway through it, I kept thinking this was a mistake because I don't, because it was scary, but it was because they were purposely trying to scare you with the music and the camera shots and everything. But something that is psychologically scary doesn't do that. It just ends up being scary. Interest rates forecast to be cut 3 times this year. Real estate is going up even higher. How will this end? That's a good question. How will it end? I think there's a lot of money that has to find a home. And I think a lot of money is probably trying to find its way out of China right now because China is uninvestable, really, when it comes to real estate. And the stock market, that just keeps going down. So I think, that money has to get out. It has to sit somewhere. It's not going to sit in banks. It's going to sit in real estate. The number of homes that had been bought as investments, as second homes, is, I think, still at elevated levels, making it, let's just say if you're 25, it's almost impossible for you, without parents' help, it would be almost impossible for you to buy a home. Much beyond a 400 or 500 square foot condo, and even that would be a significant part of your income to pay for that at 600,000 or 700,000. How does this end? I really don't know. It's when I first bought my first house, the average price of a house that you could buy was typically about 3 times your income. And that would be a comfortable house that if you made $60,000 a year, you could buy a $180,000 house and you were buying a decent house. I know that sounds silly, but you were like $300,000 houses when I was, 28, 29, 30, were considered very, very, very good neighborhoods. Now, even if you make 100,000, a small condo is 6 times your income. 6 times, not a decent house, just a small condo is 6 times your income. How are you going to get that done? Let's just pan over here and look at the mess going on over there, eh? Big storm coming in. It was supposed to rain tonight, which is great because it'll fill up the groundwater a little bit, or at least add to the level of the groundwater, because in the weekend, I do have a well, but it was lower pressure this weekend, so this is more than welcome right now. I can switch to city water anytime, but then you pay. I got well water, which I'm more than happy about. I read the poem a long time ago, but didn't really get process why it's supposed to be scary. Oh, good. Now you get a deeper appreciation. Helps with self-reflection, also compassion for someone I know struggling with their demon. Hard to be around, but it makes me more understanding. How much does your house cost in Costa Rica? Well, if I bought this in Canada, let's say, I'd have to go to get the views I have. I'd have to go out to Calgary or BC. I'd probably be somewhere, given the size of the property I have, I'd probably be somewhere around anywhere between 8 and 12 million. I did not pay anywhere near that in Costa Rica. But that being said, I still believe I overpaid for this. You're not going to understand this market on your first, like if you come down here to buy something, you're not really going to understand the market. You're relying on your real estate agent to help you. Unfortunately, I didn't get the help I needed on that front, and I overpaid. But you know, I look at it this way: the amount of tax I'll save over the next 5 years makes this house free almost 3 times over. So this is sort of like a residual tax asset, because I would have lost triple the amount to taxes over the next 5-6 years anyways. So even if I sell it for half of what I paid, which clearly is not going to happen, but even if I sell it for half of what I paid, that is money that I would have lost to the Canadian government anyway. So this house is more like a residual tax asset. It's got a payback period just on tax savings of about 3.5 years. 3.5 years, and this is a free house versus had I just stayed in Canada. So I'm not really too concerned about what it cost me. I think more in terms about what is it saving me, right? But that being said, I did overpay for it. I didn't know enough about the local market, but I'm very good at risk management. So all you need is a snake charmer from India to keep those snakes away. Yeah, I think the snakes and the spiders add to the charm of the place. Careful, watch that snake. Ah, right. Let's see, how do you recommend changing my study plan from level 2 to 3? Level 2, watch lectures, EOQ, summarize notes, smash EOCQ, ecosystem, mock formulas. Yeah. So level 2 is evaluation level, so you do a lot more analytical work. Level 3 is a conceptual level. So while there are numbers and quantitative aspects to level 3, I would say that you'd want to have a much more conceptual view. Level 3 is more about how to do all this stuff now, not what to do. Level 2 is about, well, you know, here's valuation. And you value this way, you value derivatives that way, you know, so it's sort of like, you know, what to do. Level 3 is more about, well, okay, great, you know how to value all that stuff. Now let's build a portfolio. How are you going to get that done? Here's a scenario. What are you going to do? You got a yield curve that's doing this, position for it, right? It's a lot of that stuff, portfolio management. So just make sure that you don't get too bogged down by the micro. That means sentence by sentence, but then you step back and you look at the big picture and say, you know, well, what does all this mean in a bigger context? How am I structuring a portfolio based on all this little detail that I saw? Did not do the reading in advance. Pretty glad I didn't. You going through it was really cool. Didn't do the reading. Just showed up to class and didn't do the reading, and you think you're going to get participation marks? Have you seen Shutter Island? Yes, I have. That was a good movie. That had a great twist at the end. I'm not going to give anything away, but it had a great twist at the end. Do you know why car.un went down to 46.68? I don't think it's Canada 5-year bond yield, because last time bond yield went to 3.5, car was at 50. No, I don't know why it went down. I've been watching it. I saw it. I was going to buy some on the close of Friday, and I thought, I keyed in and it said, I just had to enter, I just had to do the authorization on my phone, and my phone was all the way upstairs, and I thought I had 4 minutes to close. I thought, I'll get it Monday, and I'll wait. And then I saw it going down again today, so I thought, if I see 45, I think I'll probably pick up. How much room have I got? Because I can only do my Lira, my TFSA, and my RSP. So I could probably grab, I don't know, almost 10,000 shares. I'd probably, if I see it at 45, I'd pick up 10,000. I think 46 and change. Let's see if it goes a little bit more. Do you regret not moving to Costa Rica earlier? Yeah, had I done it 2 years earlier, I would have saved a huge amount in tax. A huge amount in tax. So, yeah, kind of. Well, actually, I don't even know if I can say that because I did have a business going. So if I left, I would have had to have a valuation of the business done, and it probably would have cost too much to leave because the tax I would have had to pay would have required me to liquidate a whole bunch of stuff. So it was probably a situation where I couldn't go unless I did liquidate some things, and I wasn't ready to do any of that at that time. The time to go is before you really start building any value in your business. That's the time to go. How your views in life was shaped from early 30s to present, and challenges that made you resilient? I don't know. 30s to present. That's a good question. I've never really reflected on how it was shaped from 30s to present. I wouldn't say it was challenges that made me resilient as much as it was well, what would be a good word here? Not so much failures, but you know, just not a lot of doors that were open, I would say. And you knew that you had a whole bunch of ability, but you couldn't find the right doorway, but you kept trying again and again and again until something works, until you figure it out. So resilient in that sense. Do you study best in the morning? I do. If I have to learn something, first thing in the morning is the best. Can you elaborate on ROE and its relation with book value of a company? Well, return on equity and its relation with book value of a company. I'm not quite sure what you're asking me here, but the book value of a company, you're taking shareholder equity and dividing it by the number of shares. So, that is your equity, right? So, from a corporate finance perspective, you'd measure return on equity that way. From a corporate finance perspective, from an investor perspective, your return on equity is how much money you put out to buy the stock or to buy the asset that you bought, whether it be a bond, a preferred share, or a stock, regardless of what the book value is. So if I don't know exactly what I'm not sure what you're getting at there. Can you do philosophy next time? I can, but philosophy is longer. It's poetry is self-contained. You can do a poem in a very self-contained way, and then you're done. Philosophy is, there's no 18 stanza philosophy. They're longer essays, books even. They're like you do something like Nietzsche. That's 50, 60, 70-hour course on really get, and even then that would be considered an introductory undergrad course to it. master's level, you're probably taking one book and going really deep on it, and then across other philosophies at the time, across the conversation that he might have been having with other thinkers at the time, because they are at the heart academics. They are engaged in conversations. So it's a long road to do those. Portfolio management, the other live stream, you've mentioned that you don't do, you'd not do that if you had less than 25K. Speaking of time invested, how much time does it take? Well, when I say portfolio management, if we're talking about mean variance optimization, I don't do any of that stuff. But anytime you have an online account, a brokerage account, and you are it's fully discretionary, meaning that you're the one trading it. You are managing a portfolio. You may be managing it poorly, but you're still managing a portfolio of assets. If you're thinking about modern portfolio theory in terms of how you optimize a portfolio, I don't get into that. I don't get into that. Not at an individual level. I got the applied series. Where do you recommend I start? Sector studies. Sector studies. Get to know the sectors of the economy and some of the industries, so that you can then make decisions about where you want to invest. It seems governments are trying to pick on big tech now that they are large. What is your take on this and the impact of Google, Microsoft? Well, I don't know that they're picking on them just because they're large. I think they're picking on them because their size conveys to them something that could potentially be dangerous to society and to individuals. When one company has so much power over you, or has so much power over the culture, or even over the political process, even, right? So it's, when you think about here is something I want you to try. If you think your devices are not listening to you, I don't have Siri at all, but I have the Amazon app on my Apple devices. The other day I had mentioned something. I just mentioned it to somebody. And lo and behold, on my YouTube feed, a video about it showed up that I've never once searched for that topic ever. I just mentioned it. I looked at it and I go, okay, I can't tell you how many times this has happened, where I'm just talking about something and suddenly there it is. Or you say the word Ford lots of times, and you know what kind of ads you're going to see on YouTube? Ford. Your devices are listening to you, whether you know they're listening to you or not, whether they're allowed to listen to you or not. Now, are you okay with that? Are they also accessing your camera and you don't know? What else are they doing, right? Go ahead and Gmail and send an email to your friend and just put the word Maytag in it. And if you don't think Google is reading your email, head over to YouTube in about 15 minutes and start watching YouTube and see if you see any Maytag ads. Or search for something like Boeing on Google and tell me if you don't see a Maytag ad show up, right? They're listening. So, I mean, when do you speak up? When do you then say, okay, hold on a second, this is a little too much. Let's see if I can change our angle here. So it is, like that, like I don't know where it's from or what lines these are from, but it's about World War II. First, they came for the Jews and I said nothing. Then they came for my neighbors and I said nothing. Then they came for me. Right? When do you speak up? At what point do you say, whoa, this isn't cool. Technology is only going to find its way into your life more and more and more and more and more. Do you want one company with such a dominant position in that one company, right? That's a lot of power to give to one company. And we do have antitrust laws. Does the size of that company by its very self eliminate the possibility of any competition? And if it does, is that the best thing for you? If these companies have such a dominant position, they are not forced to innovate, and they can raise prices without having to continually give you better and better service and more and more. Is that the best thing for society? Or is taking one of these big companies and saying, all right, we're going to break you up. You can't be search and YouTube at the same time. Enough of this. You can't be search and Gmail at the same time. Enough of this. Would you then get a whole bunch of innovation? Right? And would that not be better? So, size in itself I don't see as a problem, but size that precludes the possibility of any competitor, and size to the point where where things like that happen. Where I say something, I just say something. I don't even key anything into any device. I just have a conversation and I say a word, and suddenly there's something in my YouTube feed about it, and you look at it and you go, I never searched for this. And this is out of my normal search patterns. How could you possibly have come up with this unless you're freaking listening to me, right? I don't know. Has anyone got stories like that? I mean, that happens to me. I can't tell you how many times that has happened to me, where I'll have a conversation about something, and then later that night you're searching for something, and oh, look at this. Happens once. What a coincidence. I was just talking about this. Happens 20 times. That's not a coincidence any longer. Well, what else are they hearing? Right? Can you add a noise filter or something? I was trying to watch this last time, and the same eerie creak keeps happening. Well, it's the cicadas. They complain when the sun comes up. They complain when the sun goes down. But listen now. All we got is that cloudy sky, which the light will disappear soon. Uninspiring sunsets, unfortunately. But I can't do much about the cicadas. I can instantly relate the poem to a film about grief. Have you watched The Babadook 2004? No, I haven't. Do you know if it's legal to box trade across country, like set up something with your lawyer in Costa Rica and lose in Canada, do the opposite in Costa Rica? But why would I? I'm not subject to the Canadian tax regime, and if I ever did something in Canada, Canada would then say, okay, well, now all your income has to be taxed, all of it. I don't know why I would do it across countries like that. No. I'm sure I could, but I don't understand I don't know what the purpose would be. Because that can save you tax. Oh, well, if you're trying to do that, Costa Rica is not one of those countries where you can get away with that. You got to be in a country that's a bit more protected from Canada than that. That's not going to be enough. And to have brokerage accounts in two countries, you have to be residents of two countries. That's going to be hard, almost impossible to get done. And if you're paying taxes in two countries, there'd be no point. There'd be no point. Do the raven represent him or the seed in him who can defeat the demon? Oh, I was talking to someone else. Finding a door, love your... There you go. Do you eat breakfast before studying? No, I do not. And would you study 8 hours a day? No, I would not. And would you break up the sessions? Yes, I would. Yes, I would. You got about usually 45 minutes before your brain's productivity starts decreasing. By the time you get to hour 3, you're wasting your time. It's better to do 45 minutes 3 times a day than to try to do 2 hours and 15 minutes all in one sitting. Right? Spread it out. You'll do a lot more. You'll be a lot more productive that way, as opposed to trying to do it all at one time. My brother got a CFA using your course and materials. Is it still worth it to do a CFA or any other professional certification given that AI passes these tests? AI did not pass the CFA test. ChatGPT did not pass the CFA test. So there's that. There's that. But yes, I do think it's still worth getting because you're up against AI. So, if I look at you and I say, well, you've got no master's degree, you've got no designations, the AI is looking a lot better than you. I mean, now you're becoming more and more uncompetitive just on paper. So if the AI is doing what it's doing, it's a red queen, right? You got to run just to stand still. So you have no choice but to continue going forward. It's not as if you can say, well, AI is going to replace this, I'm not going to do it. That would you can say that for every single bit of learning you could do. Why would I do it? AI will do it. And then you will be a self-fulfilling prophecy because you'll never be able to get a job because everyone says AI can do it and you say, see, told you, good thing I never did any of that stuff, right? So no, I don't think that is wise thinking at all. When will I get a chance to buy the M-Hat? I don't think you will have a chance to buy the M-Hat. I think that's done. I'm not sure they're going to continue on with that. But I do have M-Hats here. The only way to get an M-Hat now is to actually visit me in Costa Rica and bring a 1 liter of amber maple syrup, which will put you back about $14, $15 Canadian, don't you know? And then you come on down and I'll give you a hat and a picture and a couple hours of conversation. What time is it there? 6:14. I got to be at the airport at 8 to pick somebody up. 6:14 now. I got about 15 minutes and I got to wrap this up. Follow up on car. In the past, you mentioned CAD can move strangely. Does that apply to Canadian stocks too? Bond yield did move up these 2 days, but I find it's not too correlated to bond yield. I don't know. I didn't look too much into CAR, but it's not uncommon for it to, head up to 50, head back down a 45, 50, 46, head up to 50. It'll trade in that sideways movement until the Bank of Canada does start cutting rates, being that they didn't cut rates last time. There might be some thinking, or it might be a reaction to the Fed. The Fed is going to be cautious, they say. We don't expect really the first one till June, so maybe there is some thinking that, well, the Bank of Canada is not going to deviate too far from the Fed. The Bank of Canada will take its cues from the Fed, so maybe they won't cut as quickly as we thought. It could be something like that. Trying to find reasons for every move sometimes is very difficult unless there's some significant news. I check the news feed on CAR. I even get the news when it comes out because I'm subscribed. So any release I would get right away. And the last one I got was an announcement of what their dividend was, which they send every month. So no, nothing new there. Let's see. And somebody is very confused about what this is. Barely grasping the concepts for Quant L1 right now. I've scheduled to write this test August 24th. Oh, well, you got time. Should I move it to November? No, you have lots of time. We're only in March. You got lots of time. If I move it to November, will I need to extend my MM? Yeah, you would, which you can, but you got plenty of time. I wouldn't be extending it yet. As far as I know, CFA doesn't exactly disclose their passing criteria, so I'm not sure if I will ever pass. I don't know what you mean by their passing criteria. You mean in terms of what the minimum passing score is? No, you're right. They don't. You have to sort of just infer it. I'd mail you a bottle of maple syrup. It would never get here if you tried to send it through the mail. It would never get here. It would never get here. New to finance, reading a financial statement of a company who acquired another company. The statement mentioned pro forma everywhere. Could you illustrate this term? I guess I'd have to see it in context. You say it mentioned it everywhere. Was it talking about? Yeah, I'd have to see it in context to know. In the statements themselves, in reference to the statements, in reference to the exhibits of the statements, right? Do you think there's a possible path from financial accountant to an analyst position if I'm 30 and just started studying? Yeah, I do. Sure. How do we contact you through email if we want to meet up? On the YouTube channel, if you click on About, you go to my channel, you click on About, and you should see my email address there. If not, hit me up on LinkedIn. Have you ever been to Barbados? Nope. Any other country in the Caribbean? Nope. Is Rosalita okay after the neighbor's visit? Oh yeah, she was quite freaked out. That dog just ran right at her, and the cat moved, and the dog ran right into the windows, because the front of all my doors are windows, and that was pretty wild. So tried to save the cat, tried to grab the cat, but the cat was having none of that, so I couldn't even get in between them. But yeah, Rosalita's fine. Do you live with your family in Costa Rica? No, just me. Just me. Just me. Which brand of amber maple syrup? It wouldn't matter what brand. Any Canadian brand of amber maple syrup is good. Once you start getting into the dark, that's more for, if you wanted to mix it with a barbecue sauce to make like a maple glaze or something. It's not great for coffee. Amber is just the right texture for coffee. There's 4 different types of maple syrup, and amber is the best for that. Yeah, the dark, if you want to put it on your pancakes or something, you want the dark. The amber is right where you want to be. There's a science to this stuff, man. What would be a roadmap to become a CFA if you're a second-year computer science? Level 1, level 2, level 3, and 3 years of work experience. That's the roadmap. Start with level 1. Combine with computer science, especially, Python. That's a big language in finance. Then yeah, you become attractive. Will you permanently stay in Costa Rica? I think my timeline is 5 to 7 years. That's about it. And then from here, I don't know where I go, but would I consider this is it and stay here? From where, at this point in time, no, I wouldn't do that. But in 3 or 4 years, I might say, you know what? I'm home. I'm where I want to be. But right now, I can say nope. No. This is, I remind myself every day, I'm here for the tax savings. I'm certainly not here for the infrastructure. I'm certainly not here for the culture shock. I'm here to save on taxes, eye on the prize, and then I'll figure out what I want to do after that. A guy in the bar stood up and said, "Hey, I take offense to that." What are you, a lawyer or something? No, I'm an asshole. I guess I missed the first part of the joke. I guess I must have missed the setup of the joke. A holding company has 3 different subsidiaries with different percentage of holding. Those 3 subsidiaries have different lines of business and are all private. How would you calculate the beta of the holding co? Well, there must be some. I mean, they may be private, but I mean, there must be. Is there a form of consolidation Is it accounted for by the equity method? There must be some way to figure out roughly their size in terms of their sales. There must be some comparables that you could use. Their holdcos, it'd be hard to get, I guess, a description of their debt unless they were consolidated. And if there are three lines of business, are they considered different segments? If they're considered segments, how much reporting do you have on each one? Can you try to figure out what the size of these companies are? All right. A guy walks in the bar and yells, "All lawyers are assholes." Oh, there's your setup. And somebody stands up and says, "Hey, I take offense to that. What are you, a lawyer or something?" "No, I'm an asshole." How dare you compare me with a lawyer? Okay, that's a good one. But you gotta you, you gotta work on your delivery here. Why not Panama? Panama's hot and muggy and humid and dirty and loud and angry. That's why not Panama. I spent a week there, and after the first 6 hours, I said, "Must I spend a week here? Is there any way out now?" There was no way out. Worst week of my life. Hated every minute of it. Well, not every minute, but hated the majority of it. Did not like Panama City at all. At all. At all. All right. I'm gonna get going here. The airport is it's not that far away, but everything is a long drive in Costa Rica. Everything is a long freaking drive. So I gotta leave like a good hour and a half before the plane lands, because that's just the way it works here. I will well, I guess I'll see you guys later. All right. Ciao.